Okay, this is our presentation over Margarita Engle, a story of her life told by Avery Isaacs
and Anna Hunt.
So this is Margarita's backstory. Her childhood, she was actually raised in Los Angeles, but her mother was a Cuban American. She actually resided in Cuba. Margarita was actually able to go to Cuba for a few summers until there was an attack on her country where she was unable to go. She wrote poetry over these specific areas in Cuba in hopes that she would be able to go back one day. Her education, her degrees are actually not in writing or poetry. You can read right there what her degrees were actually in, but she classifies her first poem, which was written at age 40, as a failure, and that's whenever she switched to free verse in her writings. This was more as a hobby for her. Going along with hobbies, she was a lover of nature. She actually found her love of nature in Cuba on a nearby farm by her mother's land, where this is where most of her writings take place. And she also wants to write about people who may have been forgotten within our history. Engle began writing in her 40s, like I mentioned before, and her degrees were actually not based in writing at all. She has a very calm nature about her and says that poetry takes practice like many other artists, like dancers and musicians. She writes mostly about the Cuban and Latin Americans to show their culture, and like I mentioned before, she likes to write about people who she believes is forgotten in American history. Her biggest advice for emerging writers is to stay calm and patient, and her way of doing this is through peace and quiet and nature in the outdoors. A few of her top works, many of her works are top works, but we have The Lightning Dreamer, Dancing Hands, Mountain Dog, and Drum Dream Girl, which is one of our touchstones for this year.
She has earned several awards for her work. Some of the many include Wings in the Wild. She also received an International Latino Book Award, Gold Medal, the Surrender Tree, and received a Newbery Honor. I'm so sorry. Excuse me. She learns and writes about people who inspire her, whether she knows them in real life or not. So whether it be her teacher or just someone that she came across. She writes about things that are important to her, what comes from her heart. She writes about real problems in the world, and she enjoys writing during the times that the issues are happening. A few of her books were written about certain issues, and she wrote specifically in the time of those issues, which just kind of gave more insight on what was happening, and she had kind of like a real-life view of it. She wants to help others and shine a light on those real-world issues that I just mentioned. She also likes to use her own experience as inspiration, as well as people in her family. So like Avery mentioned, her mom or just other people that she knows. Also, like Avery mentioned, she writes about people who she believes have been forgotten in history. Most of her work is inspired from other cultures, specifically Cuban and Latin American, and then going along with that, a lot of her writing has 2 copies in 2 different languages so that people of multiple cultures can read her books. Her legacy, or a legacy that she wishes, is to leave a small but heartfelt legacy of peace and hope. It's evident in each of her texts that she has so much compassion for people and issues from all around the world, and she is super involved in her writing, making sure that each topic she writes about will impact somebody somewhere. And then a quote from her, which is kind of going along with what I said in the last slide, is write from the heart about subjects that are important to you.